Hello, welcome to the tSports Network, the home.
Of
We
tSports.
nailed it. We absolutely nailed it. It's a little bit later than we wanted today. I'm very sorry. I'm Rob, your host, and I'm joined by Nick.
Hello.
What a legend, my co-host. I brought you because you're good at the math.
I wouldn't really say that, but
Oh
okay, I'll take
no!
it.
We need you for the numbers, or we
No.
need something for the numbers. Um, Anyway, everyone, thanks for being here. Hope you're well. Obviously, you guys are excited about the lists being revealed for the matchup tomorrow, the world's first
Mm.
ever Super Series matchup. Are you excited? Are you okay?
Yeah, definitely. It's exciting 'cause it's a new process for people writing lists with all the band phase and stuff like that. So we're hopefully going to see some. Obviously, we're still going to see some powerful lists,
hmm
but they'll be hopefully different to the meta that people have been seeing in singles tournaments. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I really hope you guys enjoy what we've put together. Big shout out to Ziggy, who's helped us with this. So the first team we're going to look at the Bruces. Let's take a look at the Bruces list that they submitted. So this is an overview, and we'll go through the whole process. So look what they brought. Yeah, a Seraphon list. Now that Seraphon list is Fangs of Sotek. It's a 9-drop list, and it's got a lot of the key elements. But when we get to it, it's got a surprise little.
Mm.
It's got a
A,
surprise
sm-
element.
a small surprise package in there, right?
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. So then that Slaves to Darkness list that you see in there, that's being run by Rick. That's a Despoilers list. It's got a Demon Prince in. It's a 3-drop because it's in the Plague Touch Warband. So there's 7 units in that. So it's a really low drop list. So it's going to be really good going into the pairing process.
Mm.
Then the Idoneth Deepkin list is Chris is running MSU Eels. What a
Really?
shock.
I
I
would
mean,
I
it's.
would not have expected that. If I was to put a bet on that, I'd have lost my money.
Well, I wouldn't have expected Chris to run an Idoneth list, but the fact that he has is pretty wild. And there's a little cheeky surprise character in there as well. And
Mm.
then really excited about Andy's list over there. So he's got an Ironjawz Allegiance Bloodtooths list. It's a
Okay.
Bloodtooths list, which is really unique. Again, low drop, 4 drops. 133 wounds. I think that's a good
Yeah, there's a
indication.
lot of wounds in that list.
Loads. Good indication that that it's going to have a lot of our boys in. Okay, John,
Mm.
let's bring it back. Let's do this. This is our first time. So, team composition. We saw
Mhm.
in the bands. We saw Sentinels band, and we saw the Crawler band. So both of
Mhm.
those two big bands obviously wanted to keep some of those characters alive. Maybe in the Seraphon pick. Maybe actually in the Despoilers pick with that Demon Prince. Demon Prince Despoilers are able to pick a piece of scenery and make it block line of sight.
Okay,
So
so that's pretty good in like a shooting meta that we've seen.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So that's really really important. What were they really aiming for? They've added a lot of combat, and I had this conversation off air. I think maybe what they've been trying to create is an actual game, movement, combat. There's a lot of stuff in there. We'll see. Let's have a look at Darren's list. Let's break that open a little bit, and we'll see exactly. So Darren, as we talked about, Fangs of Sotek list, and look at that. Look at that fella there, that young man Croak. He is a danger. So Croak's in the list. There is 2 lots of 40 skinks, but my goodness. Nick, how do you feel about Gotrek being
A
there?
dwarf in there, that's a bit weird.
That is weird. It's weird.
But
No one.
he's a small package that packs a lot of punch though, so is I'll be interested to see how Darren uses him over the weekend. I know he ran a competition, didn't he, around use of Gotrek, so he's a big fan of that model. So I think it'd be cool to see him throw it around over the weekend.
And it's kind of interesting the mix up in this list. You've got Gotrek there with his amazing combat output, but very slow movement 4. But if you look in the bottom left hand corner, 183 shots.
Mm.
183 shots coming out of those 2 blocks of 40 skinks. They're mainly doing the shots.
Yeah, a lot of that's coming from the skinks. It does have some Racedons in there as well, and some Pterodons with fire leech bowlers, but a lot of the shooting power is the skinks, isn't it? Those big blocks.
There it is. Let's bring it back, John. Let's bring it back. Give you some time to load it up. Uh, I mean, Fangs of Sotek have got so many good things. They're super fast because that +3 move. He's got a Star Priest in there as well, so he's going to be able to make them do mortal wounds on 60s. And he's also got the Priest, so he can give them run and shoot. So they're going to be flying up the board, which is going to be pretty scary. They can have +1 save.
Mm.
It's a lot of mortal wounds and a lot of shooting. Like no matter.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see how he plays it, whether because he's got like quite a few buffs you can put on one particular unit, and he's got like a 40 and a 30. Is he going to be throwing the 40 in all at once, and then the 30 later on, or is it going to be all at once kind of shooting?
I think maybe in bits and pieces, trying to push Gotrek into the center, control the board space. Really depends what he's up against. So the next list is Rick. Rick has brought a Slaves to Darkness list into spoilers. Okay, it's going to take us a moment, but the Slaves to Darkness list is. Oh yeah. No, okay. 1-1. Don't worry about it. So I'm very excited about this list. This is possibly my favorite list from all 8.
Okay.
Saves to Darkness lists are always fairly complicated, and you're never quite sure like how they work or what the buffs do. You kind of go, okay, so you've got Mark of Nurgle. What does that do? Let me know. So it's always a bit difficult. But I agree with everyone in the chat. Fangs of Sotek is definitely one of the stronger lists that you're going to see out there. Mm-hmm. So, Rick is running Slaves to Darkness. As you can see, pretty light on bodies. Only 46 bodies there, but 122 wounds. And mainly that's coming from the Chaos Knights. He's got a block of 10 and a block of 5. That's taken up 45 of those wounds. And they're marked Nurgle. Now, the Bellakor, we'll talk about in a minute, but the Chaos Sorcerer Lord is going to be able to make him reroll the saves, and with one spell, rerolls to hit and rerolls to wound. And they're in Plague Touch Warband. So if you attack them, any 6s to hit, you're going to take mortal wounds back. It's horrible. But they don't really work like you think Knights would, where they run forward and they kind of bound through everything, as maybe something like a Maw-Crusher would. Instead, they just kind of stand there and just wheel around, chopping heads off and beating people up, and then be like, hit me harder.
Yeah. Do you think that block, with the 6-up mortal wounds bounce back when you're getting hit? Do you think that's one of the reasons it's maybe picked is because they might expect a lot of skinks which have a lot of attacks doing mortal wounds. So is that like a counterplay to that, or it's just a good pick in general?
It's just a good pick in general, really. So the spoilers list is quite interesting because it feels like both teams have built a really anti-shooting list. They brought 2 shooting lists, and we'll talk about the other ones from the Troll Slayers in a minute. But generally, it looks like they're trying to put a lot of bodies on the board or good armor to deal with the shooting where they can. Now, Bellakor's obviously the big pick here, and Bellakor's going to be able to shut units down pretty progressively, which is decent. The Demon Prince is not Khorne. The Demon Prince is in fact Nurgle, so it's a Nurgle Demon Prince, and he's got some really cool abilities which we can talk about. In that he's got a scouting move, so he can scout D3 units at the start of the game, which is going to be really important. He's got 20 Marauders, so he can push that as a screen, or if he thinks he's going first, as you can see, 3-drop list, he's probably going to get to decide if he's going first or not. He's going to push forward and then can potentially charge with those Chaos Knights, doing a load of damage. It's going to be really, really fun. Okay, let's bring it back, John. Let's bring it back. Bellakor. You ever played against Bellakor, Nick?
I have played against Bellakor. Yeah, he's got a funky ability where he can sort of, it's not like a bribe, but he can shut down a unit for a turn.
I'd prefer a bribe.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Who wouldn't like a bribe of Bellakor? That would be that would be really, really fun. I would say that Bellakor is possibly one of the best units you can currently play in the game. Mm-hmm. It's like a great meta pick, and I would expect to see it in most team compositions because you can pick a Nagash, you could pick an Archeon, you could shut them down, and it's all because of that ability to pick a unit, and even if Bellakor dies, it still works, and you just say, right, for now, you've got to roll 5 pluses to activate, work, and do some other things. It's a great ability. Also, ethereal, not too bad in combat. It's got a spell that makes something -1 to wound, which is pretty rare. -1 to wound isn't very common generally, so it's pretty good.
I can see how that's a really good pick because every army you come across, they're going to have one key unit that they're going to throw some buffs on in a certain turn. Very rarely will you come across a list that is pure MSU where it doesn't matter which unit you pick on, it's going to get you, whereas a lot of lists will have one unit they're going to throw at you, and Bellakor can counter that pretty well.
Let's bring it back, John. He's getting so good at this, eh?
Swish John.
First time. I'd like to just shout out to John again, doing well here. So, Safe to Darkness list is really, really good, specifically because of one of the abilities that I think is quite key in being able to turn a piece of scenery to midnight and stop any incoming shooting. It basically just creates obscuring terrain, which is, so that's a 40k term, so that's wrong. Anyway, so the next list is not a list I was expecting. I was really hoping Chris was bringing ogres. This is what I've been hoping for, but instead it's not. It is a famous list at this point. It's a bunch of eels.
A bunch of eels.
Yeah, it's a bunch of eels. But there's a star performance, or like a little cameo from a Stormcast in the Celestin Prime, which adds another threat onto that list. This is actually a Dom Hain list as opposed to Futh one. Normally you see Futh one because you're able to get reroll 1s to wound, and you also get reroll 1s to hit because you're getting that from Volty. In this case, he's just gone Futh one because he's got packs of 3 eels. Everything is a 3. I think he's got 7 units of 3 eels running around with the Celestin Prime playing backup, and those Aether Wings, 2 units of 3 Aether Wings.
And what's their role in the list?
Mainly just to sit on objectives and be annoying.
Be annoying. Okay.
That's literally their purpose. They're so cheap. They're 40 points for 3 of them. They're quite fast. They can retreat and charge. They're for grabbing objectives. If you look at the bodies, Chris has only got 30 bodies in that whole list. Most of that, he's got 117 wounds, so basically the same as all the other lists. They generally run between 117 and 133.
Yeah.
But generally they're there just for a few extra bodies that are super cheap that aren't going to do any fighting.
Yeah. And can a lot of this army stay off the board? Do they want to come in?
All of it, if it wants to.
Yeah.
So the Soul Scryer is going to be not the Soul Scryer. The Soul Scryer? Yes, potentially. Keep on. But obviously the Celestin Prime can keep off as well. So it just adds another threat. So it's going to be very interesting to see that Idoneth Deepkin army play. And the very last list that we're going to see is awesome. Nathan Prescott was screaming bloody murder at me earlier. He was very, very excited about seeing this list because it's an Ironjawz list, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of our boys in that list.
Yeah, there is a lot of hard boys in this list, so we'll wait for that to pop up and you guys will see. But the Ironjawz, you wouldn't normally you see Big War, Eric Hoger, who is in one of the teams in the Super Series. We saw him do really, really well last year with the Big War, but Ironjawz you don't see as much, apart from Leah Ratunen, who we saw smash it out at Bloodshed in the Shire. This, though, is a great list by Andy, and it is awesome because it's in Bloodtooths, and Bloodtooths gives you +1 to charge. Ironjawz also naturally get +1 to charge, and then Ardboys get another +2 to charge. So he's got a brick of 30 Ardboys, 60 wounds on a 4-up save. They're going to be having +4 to charge. But the big pick is the item on the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, because that is an auto cast great big green hand of Gork. Auto cast and cannot be unbound. So he's going to pick up 30 Ardboys, give them +1 to hit from the War Chanter, teleport them, probably green puke them beforehand so that they can move an extra d6 after they've been teleported, and then they have +4 to charge. And then, brilliantly, the command ability for this army is, after the combat phase is resolved, you can pick a unit and that they can make a move, a normal move. So they can't retreat, they can't charge, but you could hit them with a Maw Crusher on a flank, take out a unit, which is really exciting, and then run away. Not that a Maw Crusher should.
Or move on to objective.
Oh, I mean, come on. That doesn't sound right at all. So, let's bring it back. So, have you got a favourite?
Favourite list?
Favourite list?
It's definitely
Twitch chat.
It's definitely got to be the Orcs, because Orcs are the best, and it sounds like a really cool list. It's like, it's a bit more tricks. It's cunning as well as brutal. Obviously, classic Orcs. And I like the reliability of, auto casting that Hand of Gork. So obviously that's a win condition that you're sort of playing around. He knows it's going to happen. It's almost putting that psychological threat on your opponent. You know this big punch is going to come at some point during the game. Is it going to be early, or is he going to hold it out and use that psychological warfare to sort of make his opponent make mistakes and then use it later on in the game? So that's going to be exciting to see play out.
Yeah. There's a lot of conversation whether or not Darren has hampered himself a little bit by putting Gotrek in. I'm sure he won't say that. I'm sure he'll think it's a great inclusion. That's 500 points down in what is an incredibly strong book. You could put that in any of the other lists. Well, not in any of the other lists, but you could have at least put that in one of the other order lists. But, time will tell, and we'll see how much Gotrek can do over this. Rick's Disposed list is a great one, great meta pick. I agree with that. All these lists are going to be available. All these lists are available going to be on the tSports Network website later today, so you'll be able to check them out in full. I know these aren't the full list, but I find it quite boring just listening to 10 more skills.
Yeah, just read out a list, summarise the list, the key units and how it generally works, then you guys can read it in detail later.
Yeah. So should we go and find out what the Troll Slayers have bought? I think the internet basically said that the Bruces won the matchup.
Okay.
A lot of people are saying that, but we'll see. So Troll Slayers there signalling their Daughters of Khaine pick with their Doomfire Warlock ban. as you can see, a 9 drop list. If you actually look, there's 3 high drop lists and there's only 1 low drop list. And then they have got an eel list as well.
I have, yeah.
They have got an eel list as well. So the Daughters of Khaine list features Morathi, so I'll be very excited to see her on the tabletop, one of my favourites. But you also, big favourite unit in there for the Daughters of Khaine.
Yes, they've got a Medusa in there. So she's got like a command trait which can teleport a unit, so that's a more tricksy movement play for them.
The Calibron pick is very interesting. So it's not Hagnar, Daughters of Khaine, it's Calibron. And then another Idoneth Deepkin list, but this time it is Futhwan and not Domhain. This has got less MSU. It's got a couple of boxes of 6 of Morsar Guard, and it doesn't have the Celestant Prime. So it's a little bit more heavy on the eels, but it still features them Aether Wings. The Seraphon list, though, there you go. James Holt bringing his Seraphon, and we might get a Croak versus Croak matchup.
Ooh.
Very exciting.
But I feel like James has got the advantage because obviously Darren's put in Gotrek with his list, who's 500 points down, like you said, on other toys to make Croak better. Whereas James seems to have picked all the other buff pieces to make Croak even more powerful than he already is.
Yeah, it's and then the Ocearch Bone Reapers list, Speckles bringing it home. 3 named characters, not 1, 3 named characters: Xantos, Catacross, and Arcan the Black. A bit of a Speckles favourite, in fact.
Yeah, he does love his Archon.
He does. And so he's going to be trying to do a bit of Curse of Years. So let's bring it back, John. That's pretty good composition. But it's interesting. Both teams, there's 2 shooty lists. The Seraphon lists, because they're shooty. That's what they are. And everyone else is going to have a fight. It's going to have a fight. And Daughters of Khaine, they love a fight. Uruks love a fight. Ocearchs like a fight. Magic Dominance is also fairly low as well. The double eel pick. So we might see eel mirrors, which is going to be super interesting. Seraphon mirrors, which could be also very interesting. So there's a lot to play for. And it's quite hard to think, what are you going to put down? I don't know. I'm going to let the players decide, and I'll just criticise afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So let's look at that first list from Ethan. So there he is. So Ethan's running Morathi. He's got a big block of 30 Sisters of Slaughter top right, and then he's also got, like you said, 20 Blood Sisters. But he's also got, as you were looking at earlier, the Medusa. What do you think about the inclusion of the Medusa?
Well, I think she's got they've got obviously a really good, interesting mortal wound shooting attack. They've got like a spell as well, but I think she's the general, and she's got that because in the I don't know what it's called, the temple that she's in, they have to have that command trait where they can teleport a unit. So obviously he's going to use that on maybe the Sister of the Slaughter, or maybe his big unit of Blood Sisters.
Or even
maybe
Morathi.
even Morathi.
Yeah, little baby Morathi. Teleporter, turn her big. Now she's only got a 7-inch charge. And that is... Morathi is my favourite... Probably one of my favourite pieces generally in games. Because you ask yourself, how do I deal with her? And the answer is... And also, if you look at all the lists, there's not many endless spells on the Bruce's side. So you're not going to be able to do that in-between turn damage on Morathi. So you're just going to have to fight her for at least 4 turns. So... That's an interesting one. Okay, that's good. A Daughters of Khaine. I like seeing it, and I like that it's Calibron. So I'm really happy about that. I don't know what else to really say. Like, we're going to see a lot of fighting.
And the Sister of Slaughter, they've got the interesting 6-inch piling rule.
Yes.
So that can catch people out, but obviously I'm sure the players coming to this event will know that, but it's still one to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah, the 6-inch piling is going to be really key in some cases, although there isn't really a lot of always strikes first either. So you've got some smashing and bashing that you're going to get from the Uruks, but like you don't have a lot of that. What we saw last year, that always strikes first meta, doesn't really exist right now, which I think is good. Okay, all right. Next up, pretty exciting. More eels. I don't know how we invented a system where what you could do is ban some of the most obnoxious and boring units in the game, and somehow we still ended up with more eels.
Well, they clearly used a defensive ban, didn't they, to keep eels alive. Both teams recognised the strength of the eels and wanted to use it to their advantage, I guess.
I guess so. So this list, like we said, is Futhwan. It's a little bit more outputty. It's got more offensive eels. It's still got, as you can see there, it's still got the Aether Wings. Yeah. But there's really not much to say about this. Although eel mirror matches are really fun, and being in Futhwan, it does mean that he's going to get the drop on the Idoneth with potentially bringing the tides down earlier.
Oh, okay.
So that's an interesting one. But like, hopefully hopefully we somehow end up with the eel match on our waterboard.
Oh yeah, that would be sweet.
Oh, that would be sweet. Okay, I think there's not much else to say about this, so we can move on to the next one in a moment. I thought I was done watching the salmon cannon, to be honest. I don't want to see any more eels in my life, but we're going to keep seeing them. A lot of people think they're meta picks at the minute, but I don't know.
Well, they've always done quite well at a tournament. I think I'm sure it's a difficult list to play, but you've not got so many different war scores to remember. Like if you've taken a list with lots of different elements and got to combine it together, if you just take one unit that's really, really good and spam it loads, you can concentrate on everything else rather than remembering all your rules for different units. So maybe that's why it's good as well.
Yes, yeah. So what Nick is basically saying is eel players aren't that smart.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not hinting at it. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Driving that point home. Okay, next up. Again, Seraphons. We've got 2 eels, 2 Seraphons in this matchup. Croak is in there, definitely. But there's a lot where Darren has got his 500 points in Gotrek. James has got a lot of additional stuff. He's got a 40 skink block. He's got a 30 skink block. He's got 2 Razordons, which is, I think, a really nice pick. They're still super cheap. He's got a skink Stegodon, or skink chief on Stegodon, which is also going to be really important for those skinks. He's got Star Priest. He's got a Priest, so he's going to be able to buff everything up like normal. He's got that little clutch 5 Chameleon skink pick, and he's got 6 Pterodons. No Pterodon Chief, though. No Pterodon Chief, so I'm not really sure what there is. But I know James has been playing with Seraphon a lot, and there really isn't anything bad you can pick.
No, they've just got a lot of good units, haven't they? The last Battle Tome just made them even stronger, didn't it?
It did. It did. All right. Well, look, I can't wait to watch that match because actually, I got a lot riding on James. Obviously, I think Darren not only is a consummate professional at wargaming, he's also a love. But James is kind of won my heart in a really big way. I think he's quiet, he keeps himself to himself, but he plays a lot of Warhammer. He was playing Seraphon when they weren't the book they are now. So I'm a little bit scared of his power level at the minute.
I'm also rooting for him because at Crimbobo once they ran which is the real Nikos competition, and he was the other Nikos. So
that works for me. All right, so I think our last list, if I've got this right, I mean, our last but definitely not least, Simon, the man himself, Speckles.
There he is.
I mean, personally targeted in the ban phase with his crawlers, he has brought 3 named characters. He's got Catacross, he's got Arcan, and he's got Xantos. He's running a 10 of Death Riders, a 5 of Death Riders, and 20 Mortek. And he's bringing the Kavalos Lance. So that means they're going to be able to use their charge ability for free once per turn, which is going to be really fun. But they've got Arcan's got like a lot of bonuses here with Catacross because they can bring back, what did we work out earlier, 21 wounds?
Yeah, so each of them have an ability where the Catacross can pick 3 units and Arcan can pick 4 units, and they can either heal 3 wounds to the unit or bring back 3 wounds worth of models. So they can, even if those knights take a bit of a punch and there's still at least 1 model left in the unit, they can raise more horses back.
Yeah, it's genuinely really, really solid. And in that 10 of Death Riders, and because these are Immortus Praetorians, should have said that before, then they're going to get +1 to hit. They're also going to get +1 save coming out of Catacross. Catacross is going to steal command points. Arcan is going to bring some big magic dominance here. He potentially gets off a Curse of Years, which could be big.
Yeah, it's always got the potential just to melt a unit completely. From starting to
and then
delete it.
And there's lots of RDP created here as well, so there's a lot of command points really being generated here. You've seen that as a general theme on lots of the armies. If you look at the despoilers list, that's generating CP at the start of the turn. Both of the Croak lists are generating CP. They're looking for that. Some battalions knocking all around. So that's it. Those are the 4 lists. They're all going to be available on the tSports Network website sometime soon, and of course you're going to get to see the battle it out tomorrow. So the big question is, Nick, who do you think is going to take it out?
Well, I'm gonna go for the Troll Slayers.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they've got #not the real Nikos, and they've got Simon Speckles in there. What else do they need?
What does anyone else need? No, I agree. Twitch chat, I wonder who you think it's going to be. And also, if you're watching this back, let us know in the comments below. It's going to kick off at 9 a.m. British Standard Time tomorrow, so it's going to be very fun. I'm looking forward to see the matches, really, because we've still got the draw process to go through as well. They've done the bans. They've tried to psych each other out. They've done the lists. They've tried to psych each other out there. Now, tell me, if you're playing with the Troll Slayers, who are you putting in as your attacker first?
Oh, it's got to be Speckles leading the charge. He's got the cavalry. Send him in.
Just straight in. That makes sense. That makes sense. So I'm playing the Bruces. I think I'm going to put in... I think I'm going to put in the Slaves to Darkness list because it's confusing, difficult, maybe. Obviously, Seraphon's a big pick as well. Like, can you deal with Gotrek? And you can just pick out stuff. The attacker-defender process in the matchup's going to be very exciting, and you guys are going to get to check that out tomorrow. So, Nick, thanks for this. It's been fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
First time we've ever done this. Yeah, looking forward to tomorrow. You guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks. I hope you enjoy it. Obviously, go check the list out. And if you've enjoyed it, please let people know. And we'll see you guys soon. Have a great day.
Cheers.
The high time